El acento de Nate es muy, muy natural. La verdad es que hasta pensé que podía ser mexicano como de Guadalajara.
Oye, parece que te pagué para decir eso, güey. ¿Cómo te ves como? Si tú estás viendo este video es porque tú quieres tener un español tan mexicano que hasta los mismos mexicanos te dicen, órale, ¿y por qué? O sea, ¿cómo es que hablas así? ¿Tienes familia mexicana o qué onda? Well, today I'm going to teach you exactly how I got that Mexican accent. Número uno. The first thing you need to do in order if you want to have that perfect Mexican accent is simply to speak a lot of Spanish with a lot of Mexican Spanish speakers. The Spanish that you are hearing me speak right now es español que he estado aprendiendo por 11 años. So I've been learning Spanish for 11 years now. I've been at this for a long time. Now, when I first started making these YouTube videos in Spanish, you should look at how, I don't want to say bad, but how not good, how bad my accent was, or how much better it has become.
¿20 años?
Sí, ya ves
¿Cuántos
mi
años
bárbaro.
tengo yo?
Mind you, I started filming YouTube videos in 2020. I'm recording this video in 2025. So you can imagine, in just 5 short years, I have massively upgraded my Spanish. And the number one reason that my Spanish became much better and I upgraded to that really Mexican accent was simply because I was speaking a lot of Spanish with a lot of Mexican speakers. Now, the problem that I see a lot of students face is they don't speak Spanish enough. So if you are one of those people, then you need to speak Spanish more. And if you really do want to get that Mexican accent, then you need to speak Spanish with Mexican Spanish speakers. It's interesting because a big reason I started to develop a more Mexican Spanish accent was not because I was trying to. It was simply due to osmosis. I'm from Southern California, and a lot of my Spanish-speaking friends were all Mexican, and the Spanish that I was hearing in my environment was Mexican Spanish. So without me realizing, when I would go to a restaurant, I would order food, or I would talk to my friends, or I would listen to the radio in Spanish, I'd be listening to music in Spanish, without me realizing it, I was consuming a lot of Mexican audio. So over time, that slowly got me that Mexican accent. And that leads into number 2. The next thing I did was to listen to a lot of audio in Spanish. So a big mistake that I made when I first started learning Spanish was that I wasn't listening enough. Now, let's be honest, listening is arguably one of the easiest and most passive ways to learn Spanish because you can do it when you're cooking or driving or whatever. Now, I really didn't start listening to Spanish all the time until I had been learning for about 3 years. So you can imagine, for 3 whole years, I wasn't really listening to the language that much. Yeah, I was talking with my friends. Yeah, I would go to my Spanish classes. But it wasn't until about 3 years into learning Spanish that I started to listen to Spanish every single day, mostly in the form of music. You can do whatever you like. So if you like podcasts, music, movies, whatever, the key is that you listen to things that you actually like listening to. But if you want to get that Mexican accent, then you need to be listening to Mexican Spanish every day. La tercera cosa que hice, I got a Mexican novia. Una novia mexicana te ayuda mucho a mejorar tu español mexicano. Now, it is not a requisite. It is not a requirement to get a Spanish-speaking romantic partner. If you're already married or if you already have a partner and they don't speak Spanish, that's completely fine. But if you are single, it sounds silly, but honestly, finding a Spanish-speaking partner is going to help you a lot. Because let's be honest, they are one of the people in your life that you are talking with all the time. So if you can say to your partner, hey, you speak Spanish, I want to speak lots of Spanish with you, let's practice. And if they happen to be Mexican, then there you go. Then you can start to develop your Mexican accent. I met many of my students who have Spanish-speaking partners, and maybe they're from Colombia or Peru. And because they're speaking Spanish all the time with their romantic partner, they start to get that Colombian accent or that Peruvian accent or that Mexican accent. Once again, a lot of it has to do with your environment and that osmosis. Just by being in that environment of speaking and listening and, constantly being surrounded by that Mexican Spanish, well, then it just kind of sticks. One day you're just gonna be like, oh, wow, I'm speaking more like a Mexican Spanish. That's pretty cool. La cuarta cosa que hice, me mudé a México. Now hold on. Before you say, ay gringo, you don't need to move to a Spanish-speaking country and you don't need to move to Mexico in order to get that perfect Mexican accent. In fact, 95% of all the Spanish that I learned was in the United States. Mind you, I'm from Southern California, so yes, there were lots of Mexican Spanish speakers. But you don't need to move to a Spanish-speaking country in order to get that perfect accent, okay? 95% of all Spanish I learned was at home. The thing is, I was recreating that immersive environment like if I were living in a Spanish-speaking country. I was speaking with Mexican Spanish speakers. I was listening to audio in Spanish. My whole life was revolving around that Mexican Spanish. I wonder how many times I could say Mexican in this video. I feel like I've said it like 20 million times already. So of course, living in Mexico has helped me a lot. At the time of this recording, I've been here for 2 years now, but you have to understand that it is not a requirement in order to get a perfect accent. Sure, it helps. Yes, when I go out on the street, I'm hearing Spanish and so on and so forth, but you really don't need to move to a different Spanish-speaking country if you want to get that perfect accent. However, in my particular situation, of course, this is something that has helped me. Número 5. Enfócate en las vocales. If you really want to have a good accent in Spanish, focus on the vowel sounds. It drives me nuts when students come to me and they say, Nate, my accent is really good, and oh yeah, I don't really need to worry about my accent that much. Then we speak a little in Spanish, and I'm like, man, you're totally mispronouncing the vowels. If you want to instantly upgrade your accent in Spanish, focus on the vowel sounds. I say it all the time. Okay, in English, A, E, I, O, U. In Spanish, A, E, I, O, U. Okay? The sounds are a bit more abrupt. As English speakers, we often elongate the sounds. Okay? It's not O, right? It's O. It's quick. It's abrupt. Okay? A, E, I, O, U. I promise you, if you just focus on the vowel sounds, you are going to instantly upgrade your Spanish accent. When you combine those basic vowels with an immersive environment, now you've got the recipe to success. The next thing you need to do is just be patient, be consistent, and not give up. That leads me to my next point, time. You have to remember, I have been learning Spanish for 11 years at the time of this recording. Go ahead, go on my YouTube channel right now and look at one of my oldest videos of me speaking Spanish. You are going to see how much better my Spanish has become. A huge reason for that is because I was speaking a lot and because a lot of time has passed. I have been speaking Spanish for 11 years now. That's a lot of time. So if you're discouraged and you're like, man, my accent just isn't where I want it to be, you just need to speak more, be patient, and be consistent. Y la última cosa que puedes hacer para mejorar tu acento mexicano o para hablar un español más mexicano es simplemente aprender palabras y frases mexicanas. So, if you really want to impress people and they, do a double take and they're like, oh my gosh, man, like, I thought you were Mexican, or do you have Mexican family, or what's going on? Like, why is your Spanish so good? Often it has to do with your accent, by doing all the things that we just talked about, but also by learning slang. So learning specific words and phrases that Mexicans would use. So instead of saying, ¿qué tal? Maybe saying something like, ¿qué onda? Or no manches, or ¿qué show? ¿Qué pedo? Órale, ándale. All of those words and phrases. I'm not going to teach them in this video. I have a bunch of videos there on my channel, or you can go to the Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy by clicking the link in the video description. But that is going to help you a lot. So, just to recap, if you want to learn how to have that perfect Mexican accent, focus on the vowel sounds, speak lots of Spanish with Mexican Spanish speakers, listen to a lot of Mexican audio, be patient, create an immersive environment for yourself, be consistent, and just have fun, okay? Tú puedes, y también, claro que sí, busca una pareja mexicana con la que puedes hablar tu español. Eso es todo. Bueno, muchas gracias por ver este video. Espero que te haya ayudado. Also, if you want to learn how to become fluent in Spanish, click the link in the video description to join my Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy, where we teach you how to have a 10-minute conversation in Spanish in 90 days. Gracias. Hasta luego.